Hello, my friends, and welcome back to a very exciting, I can't even start telling you until you watch it. Welcome to Community Bridge Builders, and it is my honor to introduce to you, one of them, and two other extraordinary people. Let me start with Ms. Kara Jarzinski.
Very good.
And she's the CEO of Resolutionaries, and you're going to hear about it. Then we had Esquire, Mr. Dennis Cohen, and he's going to be talking about a fantastic workshop that he does so that we learn to listen. Mm-hmm. And also we have with us Mr. Willie Phillips, Vice President of the Laguna Woods Community Bridge Builders, and many other things that people already know about you, Willie.
Hello, everyone.
So let me start by asking you, what is the Resolutionaries, Kara?
Well, thank you for asking me, but I really have to turn this back over to Dennis because he is our founder, and the work of Resolutionaries began in his brilliant mind and even more so in his heart.
Oh.
I've had the wonderful privilege of knowing Dennis for
20 years or so?
20-something years, for quite some time, and this baby was birthed from him. So please, you should take this one, Dennis.
Thank you, Kara. Kara's our executive director.
And yeah.
Yes.
So please tell us, Dennis.
Okay, well, Resolutionaries, it's a nonprofit, and it came out of the need, just like your community bridge building is, the need to do something about the divisiveness in our country. And I'm a divorce lawyer and mediator. And I work with people who are at their worst, right? They're angry, they're hurt, they've been betrayed, they feel betrayed, they want revenge, and yet they work together to find solutions for themselves, for the future of their children. And I have just learned that if they can do it, we all can do it. And it takes some guidance, it takes an intention, it takes a willingness to do it. But in all the bridge building work that I've done and all the other organizations that do it, we find that almost universally, people come together, they have an experience, and all of a sudden someone that they would be bashing on Facebook, they want to go out for a beer afterwards because they've remembered, oh, we're all humans. We're all in this together. And even though we're not trying to change people's minds, we're trying to remind each of our humanity, right, and the commonalities that we have.
Yeah, wow. Willie?
Well, how long have you been in existence? And Kara, how do you suggest going about building the bridge? And also tell us a little bit about what is a resolutionary.
A resolutionary. So I had the fortune of coming on board earlier this year in January. Dennis called. And that gets to a little bit of the switch in our focus. Dennis founded it doing town halls, like he mentioned, about getting back to the idea of talking. So he would bring people in, and that's a little bit about what we're going to do this afternoon as well. Bring people in, big topic. How are we going to talk about something like gun control or abortion or vaccines and the mandates? All of those topics that are really hard to talk about. And Dennis had this beautiful idea of a system called CALM. So he would introduce people to the system of CALM, and then in creating a safe space, they would use the CALM system to be able to discuss these topics. So Dennis, do you want to talk about what the CALM method is?
CALM is an active listening technique. It's it's certainly not unique, but I just try to make it as simple as possible. CALM stands for connect, ask, listen, and mirror.
Right.
So
start with connect.
Okay. So in order to have a conversation, you want to let the other person know why we're doing it. This relationship is important to me. I know the last time we had a talk, we ended up in a big argument. Can we try it again? Because I want to be able to talk to you about important things. This relationship is important. Or maybe I just met you. Said, hey, would you like to explore a little bit about finding out who we are, what you believe, what I believe. Maybe we can learn something from each other. So just connect there.
I would like, oh, I'm sorry.
Go
ahead.
on, go on.
The second one was
Ask.
Ask. Okay. Please talk about the asking, which is, I think, central to our lives here in Laguna Woods Village, that we have the opportunity of having neighbors, and yet do we get to really know them? Are we asking questions? Please talk about that.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
for me, probably the most positive, important symbol in the whole bridge building movement is the question mark. It's curiosity. How do you, I mean, if I don't understand, like, why you believe something, I just think it's wrong if it doesn't agree with me. If I understand, if I ask questions about what are the values that make up that belief, what did you read, what did you learn that had you believe a certain thing? And I may have a whole different view of the world. These days, if you're watching Fox News, you're living in a different reality than if you're watching MSNBC. And so, in order to really start to understand, you have to ask a little bit about what's this from? Where did you get this information? And some people want to ask a question like, how could you possibly believe that? That's not really a question. We're talking curiosity here. The other thing is, I don't think any of us are really sure. I mean, we tend to want to really double down on our beliefs, but there's so much out there that I don't know if any of us are really certain that what we're reading or hearing is really the truth. And so I think one of the best things you can do is with someone that you don't agree with, you say, let's go on a fact-finding mission together. I'll read anything you want me to read. You read anything I want you to read. Let's learn a little bit of the other person's life view. In doing that, you start, because most of us want what's best. They're not, whatever their positions are, it's because they want a better world for themselves and really for everybody. But they see it differently because they've got a whole different view, getting a whole different set of, news feed. And so by going on that mission together, maybe we can come to some understandings that we both have. Yeah. In mediation, you can't really come to an agreement unless you have a shared narrative. And even though it doesn't have to be exact, at least you have to understand what the narrative is, both sides of the narrative, or all the different sides.
Yeah.
So when you listen to people, they in turn listen to you. So what are you saying? What's the gap that you're trying to bridge? What's the problem or the challenge that you're trying to address?
The polarization in our society right now. People, like what Dennis was saying, people are really, they hold tight to their beliefs. And that's supported by the news, certainly, if you're just sticking to one channel or another. And it doesn't matter which channel, they're polarized. And so what we're trying to do is to come back to a culture of curiosity and a culture of questions, a culture where we have dialogue, a culture where we deliberate, a culture where we have all of the foundational principles on which our democracy was founded. We live in a unique, beautiful country, one where we get to have questions, where we get to have differences of opinion. And when we are able to have conversations, that's when we really get to be able to really look at a problem from all different perspectives and maybe get to a wise solution or a long-standing solution, something that we can come to together through differences of opinion. And that process is really unique and beautiful to our democracy. And when we are instead in our foxholes in terms of wherever we believe, then we're not having a conversation anymore. And then how do we get to any solutions to any problem? So this process of conversation is really addressing, it doesn't matter what problem you're talking about. It doesn't matter what your main concern is for our culture our community, our family, or our world, if we're not actually able to have a conversation about it, then we're not able to address the root problem. So that's where this calm method really plays into it. And I'll give you a real world example, if that's all right.
Sure.
So Dennis, one of the town halls that we did some time ago was on gun control. And in that town hall, there were people there who didn't want any guns at all. They were complete draconian measures, to people who wanted their AK-47s and didn't want anyone to take it away. And then there were people all along the spectrum as well. And utilizing the calm method, one of the things that, first of all, everyone felt heard. They didn't have to try to sway anyone to their position, and they also didn't have to worry about someone beginning to argue right away. Nope. First of all, we're just going to connect and ask and listen. And then as people felt heard, then one of the things that Dennis did was to work everyone back. Why do you feel this way? Where does this come from? And in that process, everyone in that room, whether they were absolutely no guns at all or absolutely every guns, everyone realized that they all had this position because they were trying to protect the people they loved. And in realizing that every single person in that room held the same position in their heart, opened up a space of compassion. That now we can start to have a real conversation. Why do you really feel this way? And where does this come from? And that commonality of the heart opens up a lot of space. And what's beautiful is that the calm method really allows people to begin to get to the point where the heart can come into it in a safe way. Like, it's vulnerable to lead from your heart right away, right? Especially if you don't know where the other person is coming from. So the calm method allows you to build up that trust, to then see where your hearts might intersect and where you can begin a conversation from compassion.
Oh, that's great. We were lucky enough to get to talk to you first,
Yes.
and then through you to have Dennis here because of a bill.
Yes.
That is probably coming into Congress to be considered, and it's called the Building Civic Bridges Act.
That's right.
I am so excited about this. I can't sleep, especially after I heard the Republican congressman and the Democratic congressman talking to each other with admiration. Please talk about that bill.
The Building Civic Bridges Act is co-sponsored in the House by Derek Kilmer, a Democrat out of Washington, and Andy Barr, a Republican out of Kentucky. And together, they're coming together to create this bill, the Building Civic Bridges Act, that would create an Office of Civic Bridge Building, so not building a concrete bridge over a river, but doing exactly what we're talking about here, which is having conversations. The Office of Civic Bridge Building would provide grants for organizations such as your own to be able to have conversations in a safe place in communities where it would benefit from conversation and being able to find that common place of the heart. It would also provide grants for perhaps some civic institutions that need some help in conversation would do that. So for instance, libraries, school boards, city councils. All of those have recently been in the news and certainly could benefit from being, instead of shouting or other acts of violence in some cases, but instead to bring in a facilitator, a mediator who can help facilitate calm conversation. Not just Dennis's method, but there are several other bridge building methods as well. So it would provide those grants. It would also provide training to volunteers who are generously donating a year of their life in service of their fellow country people. And it would train those volunteers in some civic bridge building skills so that as they're out there in the world, they can share these skills with others. And then it would also provide funding for research to make sure that the methodologies that are out there in the world are always the most efficacious, the ones that will really be able to make a difference. And that's the Office of Civic Bridge Building. And that's what the Building Civic Bridges Act would do. It is really exciting because it's not about being a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, or anywhere in between. What it's about is being human And if we say, raise your hand if you're human, we're all going to raise that hand. And if we're going to say, raise your hand if you have people you care about, we're all going to raise our hand on that. And this allows us to foster those skills person to person, civic person to civic person, country person to country person. We all belong to all of these levels. And whether you're looking at individuals, the family, your immediate community, or our country, this skill of being able to talk is going to benefit all of those levels.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment. I'm really agitated because you guys are hitting around, but you're not hitting the nail on the head. What are we going to do about getting people to come together and realize that we are really one in all of these laws and all of these things that you're talking about? They're not really hitting home with me about how are you going to calm me down when I'm agitated? I don't agree with you, so now you're my enemy. Calm me down.
Okay. So I appreciate the question, because it's a lot of people we talk to say it's hopeless. They'll never listen. People are too mad. And there's part of each of us that is drawn to all of this drama and this separation, and it's easy to get drawn into it. But there's also part of each of us that really wants to get along, who doesn't like this fear that we're living in, who wants to look at a stranger and not go like this, but rather go like this and be open. So, first of all, it starts with the people who want it. I'm not going to waste my energy necessarily on someone who's kind of benefiting from this divisiveness, who likes it, because there's so many people, 80-90% of Americans are upset by this divisiveness, who want an alternative, who are so upset that their child won't talk to them, or their brother or sister or a friend they've had for years and years has now written them off because they disagreed on vaccinations, let's say, or something like that. So all of those people are hungry for an alternative. Mm-hmm. Do we get mad? Do we get triggered? Sure. That's where a little bit of guidance comes in. What we find, no matter all the organizations out there, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of bridge building organizations who put on programs. And what they find is when you bring people together, no matter how angry they were when they walked in, if they're there because they want to have a different experience, or they're just there because they're willing, might be really skeptical, but they're willing. You give them a little opportunity and they talk to each other. They listen. Something changes, and that part of us that really has a humanity is really the strongest part of us. It comes forth. Right now in our country, the story about the two wolves. Right now we're feeding the wolf of anger and hate. Bridge building is an opportunity to feed the wolf of love and understanding. And given people that alternative, most people turn to love and understanding. They'd rather get along. They'd rather be able to have a conversation at Thanksgiving about something other than football, about something that's important in their lives, and not be afraid that it's going to end up in a big argument.
And to be clear, we're not saying that everyone has to come to the same position.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. What we're saying is that there's a beauty in you having an opinion, and you having an opinion, Willie, and us having an opinion, and that we're all able to actually have a conversation about it. I mean, if you go to certain cafes in Europe, this is a sport to talk and debate, right?
Yes.
And there's something in our culture where, for whatever reason, we've become afraid to have that conversation. And what we found is that, to get to your point, there is power in knowing that you are being heard.
Yes.
Sure.
If you know that someone has really heard you and really listened to you, there is power in that, as is there power in really listening to someone else.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Is there a point that you come home and you can't sleep because you think, okay, these people that don't want to come and sit with me, these people that come but leave the room, do I walk away from them or do I keep trying and keep trying? Is there a point that you say, that's it, I cannot convince everybody?
Well, I guess the short answer might be yes. The longer answer is I'm just going to focus on the people who are willing. Some people go through a divorce and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting each other, sometimes over almost nothing. But more and more people are now mediating because they don't want to spend all that time and energy in their children's, college fund on fighting over things. And so more and more people are wanting to find resolutions, to work things out. That's what's happening in the courts. We want that to happen in the country as well. Because what Carol has said, it really just to expand on it, it's not about changing people's minds when you're doing bridge building. Because we need the different points of view. If we're ever going to find solutions to our problems, you have to listen to all the different viewpoints. You have to hear and see and understand the values that are behind, whether it's gun control or abortion or immigration or anything like that. You have to have all the voices heard so that you can start to figure out, okay, how do we make something work that really deals with everyone's values? Because we all have our values, and those values are almost always overlapping. There's so much commonality. It's that if we're not looking for it, if all we're looking for is who's right and who's wrong, how do I get my point across, we're not even going to get to solving the problems. We're not solving problems today in Congress very much. We're fighting over things rather than working together to solve them. That's the alternative. And I think it's an alternative that most people want.
One of the other things I'll say to answer your question is, do I just focus on the people who are here, or it's enough? The other thing, and Dennis was like, I'll focus on the people who are willing. The other thing is that we can also hold space for when people are ready to come and have a conversation. So I'll give you a personal example. That was the long dramatic pause. Do I talk about my own life in this moment? So I come from a wonderfully beautiful family, and they are primarily on my mother's side in Missouri, and there's a lot of preachers and teachers in my family, and there's a lot of service to the community that's part of my family culture. And a few years ago, there was something that happened in the family. As occurred, my aunt passed away, and unfortunately, as often happens when a key member of the family passes away, things just come out of the woodwork that you didn't even know were there. And I had always thought that we were a little bit of a tribe. My family and I were a small family, so if you have any divisions, they get felt really quickly. And there was a feeling that something was wrong. There was a feeling that something was going on. And so there was a conversation with my cousin, and out came all of these things that she was upset about. And then an email followed that was, it was a list of things. And I thought, wow, that's not my experience at all. So I said to her, I'm so sorry that you felt this way. That's awful. And as someone who loves you very much, I don't want you to be treated this way at all. And the fact that you think that this happened from, my part of the family, my goodness, either I missed something big or something really got miscommunicated. Are you willing to have a conversation with me? And I said, I will, because you were important to me, I will just listen. I will not say a single word in reply. I just really want to understand everything that you're talking about. And my cousin was not ready to do that. My cousin said, no, I think we should just drop it and move on. Well, there was a lot of things that were said, and I didn't feel like I could drop it because I didn't understand where it came from, right? But I was willing to listen. And she wasn't ready to talk, right? So when I say hold the space, the communication that was sent back to this part of the family is, you were important to me. I want to understand. When you are ready, I am here.
Okay, that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
So how do you mirror that? You get to the last acronym. How do you mirror what she just said? We've listened now. Now you said mirror. What's the last step?
Well, I think what my guess is that in your communication with her, you said, I understand that this has happened to you. I understand that whatever so-and-so said this or did this or so forth. So you're mirroring back what they've just said. So she did beautifully the connection and the asking. She didn't have the opportunity to listen, but she would have just listened and then responded with simply, this is what I heard. Is that, it's like just making sure I got it right kind of thing. That's where the mirror comes in, because when someone mirrors back to you, you feel heard. You feel, oh, they really listened to me. What I said was important enough for them to take the time and to really just listen. So that's where the mirroring comes in. It's reflecting back what you've just heard. I could mirror what she just said, but I think we're talking about mirroring the problem that was discussed. So if you're in a conversation with someone and they talk about why they believe whatever, something about guns or something like that, you might say, I understand that this is how you feel about gun control. And you might mirror, and I hear that it's really important to you. And then you might go on to, could you tell me more about why it's important to you? So it's not, it's an organic conversation, but you're always looking for those things. You're always looking to, how do I connect? How am I asking questions? How am I really listening? Yeah. Not so I can respond, but so I can understand.
And there's real power to it. So in the example of the gun control town hall that happened, it ended not in people getting really upset, but these people, no guns, I want all the guns. It ended in a
voluntary group hug.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Isn't it great?
And
Yeah,
more
there's
important,
power.
it ended in people saying, we need to have more of these.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so here's the thing with the, sorry. Yes.
We are running out
I'm
of
listening.
Your time.
I'm so sorry that we're running, we don't have enough time, but that's a perfect segue into saying, ladies and gentlemen, that we're trying to convince these wonderful people to come back to us and actually do a full, how many hours do we need?
2-3 hours.
2-3 hours to teach us how to listen, how to stay calm, and how to come to want to continue doing this work.
Right.
So thank you so much.
And we are going to do some of that tonight. We're going to have an actual experience of it tonight.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having us.